On February 3rd, 1959, a plane containing rock and roll star Buddy Holly and 3 others took off from Mason City Municipal Airport in Iowa. Within 5 minutes, however, the plane crashed into a field outside the town of Clear Lake, killing everybody on board. The previous 2 years had seen Holly establish himself as a leading light of the emerging rock and roll movement, producing 3 albums, with 2 of them reaching the top 5 of the UK album charts. He also recorded top 10 singles in the US such as That'll Be the Day, Peggy Sue, and Oh Boy. Despite his early success, Holly found himself short of cash in late 1958. Having terminated his association with his band The Crickets, he found out that the band's manager, Norman Petty, had apparently stolen money from him. He also needed money to move to New York City to live with his new wife, Mary Elena, who was pregnant. Holly assembled a new band for his upcoming Winter Dance Party tour, consisting of Waylon Jennings on bass, Tommy Allsup on guitar, and Cole Bunch on drums. The tour was set to appear in 24 American Midwest cities in as many days. New artist Ritchie Valens, JP the Big Bopper Richardson, and the vocal group Dion and the Belmonts joined the tour to promote their recordings. The entire company of musicians traveled together in one bus, although they had to use several as the buses frequently broke down and had to be replaced. It was estimated that they used 5 separate buses in the first 11 days of the tour alone. These buses were ill-equipped for the winter weather. One bus had a heating system that had malfunctioned shortly after the tour began. At one point, both Valens and Richardson experienced flu-like symptoms, and Bunch was hospitalized for severely frostbitten feet due to a bus breaking down in the sub-zero weather conditions. On February 2nd, the touring party arrived in Clear Lake, Iowa, west of Mason City, for an unscheduled concert. Frustrated with the tour's travel situation, Holly chartered the plane to fly himself and his band to Fargo, North Dakota after the show. Flight arrangements were made with a local pilot, Roger Peterson. Holly wanted his band to fly ahead, as he felt that they generated the most money. There are conflicting views on how both Valens and Richardson took his bandmate's seat on the plane. The most widely accepted version of events was Richardson had contracted the flu and asked Jennings for his seat. Valens, who once had a fear of flying, asked Allsup for his seat. They tossed a coin, and Valens won. After the show, Holly, Richardson, and Valens were driven to the airport. The weather at the time was reported as light snow, with winds from 20 to 30 miles per hour, 32 to 48 kilometers per hour. Although deteriorating weather conditions were expected along the route, this information was not relayed to the pilot. The plane took off at 12:55 a.m. Central Standard Time, or 1:55 Eastern Time. Hubert Dwyer, the plane's owner, was able to see the aircraft's taillight during its brief flight. After a couple of left turns, the aircraft climbed to approximately 800 feet, 240 meters, above ground. After yet another left turn, he could see the light slowly descend until it disappeared. Subsequent attempts to reach the plane via radio went unanswered. Later that morning, Dwyer, having not heard from Peterson, took off in another airplane to retrace the route of the missing plane. At 9:35 a.m., he spotted the wreckage less than 6 miles, 10 kilometers, northwest of the airport. There were no survivors. Mary Elena Holly learned of her husband's death from a television news report. A widow after only 6 months of marriage, she suffered a miscarriage shortly thereafter, reportedly due to psychological trauma. Holly's mother, upon hearing the news on the radio, screamed and collapsed. The official investigation was carried out by the Civil Aeronautics Board, the precursor to the NTSB. It emerged that Peterson and the Dwyer Flying Service were certified to operate only under visual flight rules. This meant the pilot must be able to see where he is going without relying solely on his instruments. However, on the night of the crash, this was virtually impossible due to the low clouds, lack of a visible horizon, and the absence of ground lights over the sparsely populated area. Furthermore, Peterson had received his instrument training on airplanes equipped with a conventional artificial horizon. While the plane involved in the accident used an older gyroscope. The two types of instruments, however, display the information in graphically opposite ways. On the artificial horizon, the sky is at the top and the ground at the bottom. In the aftermath of the crash and the miscarriage suffered by Holly's wife, protocols were changed whereby authorities were not to disclose names of victims until they had first notified their families. In June 1988, a 4-foot granite memorial bearing the names of Peterson and the 3 entertainers was dedicated outside the Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake. Near the crash site, a monument depicting Buddy Holly's glasses was also erected.